Brace yourself, because I have an absolute revelation to share with you. Risk of Rain has items. I know, I was floored when I learned this as well, but personally, I don't think it has enough. Mods do add some items, but I think we could use some more. So, a few weeks ago, I asked my Discord server and the comments to give me some fake item names that I could then apply some statistics to. So join me as we assist Hopu Games and Gearbox Studios with our gift of knowledge and help create some new items. We have 48 items to go through, so hang in there. Disclaimer, it's the disclaimer time of the video. I am not a game designer, and I have no, professional experience with game balance, so if I guarantee you that most, or some of these at least, will be over or underpowered. You are welcome to give your ideas for balancing changes for these items in the comments, but please do so respectfully, okay? Or I'll cry. For ease of understanding, we're going to organize the items in this video by their tier. Of course, we will start with the commons, then move up in rarity from there. The first of the commons is the six-sided die. I obviously wanted to include some sort of chance in this item's effect, but I didn't want to include critical anything, since there are already a few existing modded die-related items that do that. The six-sided die does this. 15% plus 5% per stack, linear. Chance to, when healing for more than 10%, minus 1% per stack, caps at 1%, to trigger a random on-kill effect on one of your held items on the nearest enemy. So yeah, I really like the items that do things that reward you for healing, Nukahana's opinion being the inspiration for this one, but I wanted that, but simple. I like how this turned out, though. I would not be surprised if it's a little bit strong. The Dragon Horn is our next common item, and its description is as follows. 5% plus 5% per stack, base damage for every 10% crit chance you have above 100%. One of the things I love about this game is that infinitely stacking most items leads you into some crazy god runs. Lens Maker's glasses, however, don't do this, and instead find themselves in more of a support role, and being at their most useful is only when they're at 10 stacks. So I believe the Dragon Horn fills that issue and gives you a reason to grab more than 10 glasses or knives or any crit thing, It rewards you for going above 100% crit. Honestly, for our next item, I don't know why it isn't on the base game already. Omni's Rend. All instances of healing heal you for 10 plus 10 per stack. More health. Come on. I just feel like this makes so much more sense to have in the game. I don't know, it just makes sense. I think this next item I wrote at 4 a.m. and maybe that's why it's so simple, but I stand by it. Gain 5% plus 5% per stack. Critical strike chance and 1% plus 1% per stack. Total damage. Total damage, at least from my perspective, is a pretty strong thing to have in the game, and is why it's only on a few items, such as the Shim. The Bottle of Mud. 10% plus 10% per stack. Chance to slow enemies on hit for 30%. There is a modded item that kind of already does this, the Prison Shackles, but the difference is that item is an uncommon and it always slows on hit, rather than having a chance to. So I think the chance sort of balances this and makes it justify itself as being a common. And that's it for the commons. I'm honestly surprised there were so little, but hey, white items aren't really usually known for their depth, so there only being 6, whatever. The uncommons. These little green friends often define your build and what playstyle you go for in a particular run, so let's make some new ones. The Bronze Vajra. Vajra? Okay. Upon killing 4 enemies in 6 seconds, gain a 10% plus 5% per stack. Chance on hit to call down a lightning strike, dealing 50% plus 20% per stack. Total damage. This effect wears off after 6 seconds and has a cooldown of 3 seconds. So I love the Charged Perforator as an item, so I wanted to make it a little more niche and weaker version that you could carry around in your pocket that could spice up your runs a little. I decided to have it have the prerequisite of killing 4 enemies in 6 seconds because it seemed a little strong without it. Total damage is still kind of busted. Also, yes, I did have to search up what a Vajra was. It's this lightning weapon that this dude uses. It's the kind of fun fact that I will choose to learn instead of any of my schoolwork. Our next uncommon item is Era Protect, which I have to preface with the comment it came with, which is unnecessarily funny to me. I do have an item name. Wait! I have 2 item names. 1, Era Protect, and 2, Forgive the World. It's just goofy to me. It's like he just stopped halfway through the comment to correct himself instead of just writing that he has 2 item names. It's funny. Anyways, Era Protect. Move 10% plus 10% per stack. Faster for every healing item you have in your inventory. Movement items. You can't live without them. For this item, I decided to be pretty cool and have it be like a movement-based item that bases itself on your other held items, and healing items just seemed like the way to go. Usually picking up healing items is like, you only pick up a few, and the rest are just like defensive. This allows you to have that extra support. It's time we check in with our favorite gay hermits, Jaro and Runald, with Jaro and Runald's vows. Burning enemies have a 5% plus 5% per stack chance per 3 seconds of time they are burning to become frozen. This can only happen once per enemy. I wanted this item to somehow combine freezing and burning, since that's kind of KNR's thing, but I think it was, and like, I didn't want it to be like 2 separate things or just weird, because whatever, but this, I think, is a pretty cool way to go about it. So they're burning, and if after 3 seconds something's rolled behind the scenes in the coding, and it's like, are they frozen now? Who knows? It's just interesting. Next item, Edge of the Storm. Gain 50 plus 20 per stack. Strikes at the beginning of a level. Strikes give you plus 1% base damage per stack. Lose 10 plus 10 per stack. Strikes per minute. Strikes reset between levels. I really like this item because it sort of rewards you for moving quicker through each environment. A speedrunner's dream, if you will. It's super, super fun.
Personally, that's why I don't agree with your opinion. Okay, I have a counterpoint. Valid argument? No. Pipe bomb. Oh,
Pipe bomb. 20% chance to throw a timed pipe bomb 15 meters in a random direction that explodes after 3 seconds and deals 450% plus 200% per stack damage. Similar to how the Molten Perforator throws its magma in random directions, this item would work like that, but only one of them, and it would be thrown from you instead of enemies. I really like this next one. I'm like proud of myself. Okay, my ego's through the roof after this one. I just feel so smart. Glowing Spores. Gain plus 2 per stack. Base regeneration. When sprinting, leave a trail behind you that heals all allies for 10 plus 10 per stack. Health per second that dissipates at 10 meters. The trail does not heal yourself. Inspired by the trail that fire elites leave behind, this one heals. It's niche for sure, but it could be an interesting way, an interesting alternative, if you will, to healing your allies. Imagine you're on multiplayer and your friend is low, just run in circles around them, play Van Halen's Freebird, and they'll be healthy in no time. The Scarab Skull. Enemies with 3 or more debuffs cannot attack for 3 plus 1 per stack seconds, and this can only happen to an enemy once. A fun, more defensive-leaning alternative, I think this item is, to the Deathmark. That would be a nice help during the teleporter event. Really simple as that. It's just, it stops the boss from attacking, giving you like a little bit of lenience to get away, and so you don't like immediately get attacked by everyone. Surprisingly, of all the items, the technology-related ones were like the most difficult items to give descriptions. Anyways, the QPU, Quantum Processing Unit. Gain plus 50% plus 25% per stack. Critical damage. This item breaks if damaged below 20% health. When thinking of technology, my brain immediately moves to critical chance and critical damage for some reason, so the QPU, I came up with a strong but fragile item that helps you with your crit builds. And for our final uncommon, the Quantum Entanglers, which I think are just like a comedy item, honestly. On kill, pull the nearest 2 enemies within 40 meters together, dealing 200% plus 200% per stack damage to both of them. I'm imagining it would look something like this. You kill an enemy, and then the nearest 2 enemies get slammed together. Another niche item, but I think it would be funny to see them bouncing around. Maybe there should be like a cooldown on how many times it should happen so you don't have like this infinite like crashing together all over the map, but still, I think it's pretty good. A whopping 9 of the items ended up being legendaries, and I'm not surprised. Legendaries are some of the most memorable items and really define your runs compared to like the uncommons or commons. Our first item might be a little busted, but I like the idea it sprouts from. The Executioner's Blade. Damage inflicted that deals between 2000% and 2500% damage now executes non-boss enemies, giving you 30% plus 5% per stack more money For every old guillotine in your inventory, increase the maximum damage threshold by 50% per stack. So, to explain what that last bit means, the damage range would go from 2,000 to 2,500 to 2,000 and 2,550, and so on per old guillotine you had. I just really like that idea. I love items that instantly kill enemies since they're just so fun to use, and I think this item makes for a pretty cool legendary. I'm not really surprised, but some of the submissions included me in them, which does nothing but inflate my ego. Thank you. Adorable socks. Aw, thank you. Upon healing 10%, plus 5% per stack, caps at 60% of your maximum health in 3 seconds, charm 1, plus 1 per stack, nearby enemy, doubling their damage and turning them against their allies for 10 seconds. If a charmed enemy is still alive after this time, deal 40% of its maximum health to it. This effect can only happen once per 10 seconds and does not affect bosses. I don't know if the charmed enemies would have their health bars placed on the left of your HUD, but I'd like to see like a purpley, sparkly effect of sorts around the charmed enemy and a sound effect that plays when they're charged. I don't know. It's a funny item. Really just like one of those summon-based items that I think could work really well. The next item I'm pretty proud of, the Legend Calendar. Gain plus 25%, plus 10% per stack. Base damage based on the map level. Resets on loop. I wanted to include the environments and progression in this item since it's, a calendar, I think it worked. I think I really like where it ended up. To give you an idea of what it means is that each environment is sort of a level, Distant Roost and Titanic Plains being a level 1 map, Aphelion Sanctuary and Banded Aqueduct being a level 2 map, and so on. So, if you had this item at Distant Roost, you would gain a plus 25% base damage buff. If you were at Abyssal Depths, you would have plus 100% because it was a level 4 map. As far as I'm aware, without looping, the largest level you can get to is the Planetarium after getting to it after commencement, making it level 7 and giving you a plus 175% base damage during the Voidling fight, which could just be really fun. Our next item is another charming related one. You can't stop me, I just think it's cute. Forgive the World. Taking 30%, minus 2% per stack, caps at 10%. Of your maximum health and damage, charms the damage dealer, doubling their damage and turning them against their allies. I don't usually like items that have prerequisites of taking damage before they do anything, but this item, while niche, might spice up your runs a little. It could be nice during the, later runs, or later parts of the run, rather. Despite me not liking those items, I made another one. Scars of the Broken One. Taking damage after you acquire this item gives you a permanent plus 0.5% plus 0.5% per stack. Base damage per 5 points of damage taken. There's not much to say about this one. It might be a little strong, but I like where it came out. This one's funny and probably is terrible. The Regalia of Dawn. Increase your luck by 1 for 10 seconds after killing a burning enemy. All chance and based items gain plus 1% per stack towards their current probability. What if the 57 leaf clover had a prerequisite? Well, here you go, for the none of you that were looking for that. The latter half of this item's abilities are honestly really only there to give you a reason to grab it over the clover. This one is fun. The Fissile Fuel Rod. 5% plus 5% per stack. Caps at 75%. Chance on kill for enemies to violently explode, dealing 3000% damage in a 30-meter radius. If the enemy is burning when killed, the damage is increased to 5000%. So, yeah, as a wise person once said, kaboom! The Shattered Void Cube. Using your equipment creates a 50-meter radius around you of void fog that lasts 20 plus 10 per stack seconds and affects the enemies and does not affect yourself. For those not aware, void fog is the stuff in the void fields that gives your character asthma, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had that stuff on our side? I really like this. It would just be a neat little damage tick to do people while you use your equipment. This next item should honestly have been a looter item, but the person who submitted it said it was a legendary, so here we go. Schrodinger's Cat. At the beginning of each stave, receive either 300 plus 100 per stack armor, or 400% plus 200% per stack Base damage, resets at the end of every stage. As a psychology major, and for my own mental health, I wish to cease conversation about Schrodinger and his cat immediately. And that's the last of our legendary items. I had the most fun making these, tied with the Lunars, but I think they won. And now for the Voids. For those unaware, Void items were added with the Risk of Rain DLC and corrupt other various items, meaning you cannot pick up those items anymore, and they instead turn into the Void counterparts. We'll read out the Void items in the same order of rarity we just read the normal items, and tell you which items they corrupt. Void items often do reversed or similar things to items they corrupt, so as a direct example of this, the 21-sided die on kill effects have 10% plus 5% per stack chance to heal you for 3% plus 2% per stack, caps at 50% of your maximum health, corrupts all 6-sided dies. Or would it be 6-sided dice? I guess I just wrote that wrong. Whatever, we're not cutting that out of the video because it's funny. I think the commenter that submitted both of these tied them together on purpose, which I really greatly appreciate because it makes my life easier, and god damn do I need that. Another Void item that corrupts one of our fake items is Ancient Hieroglyphs. Picking up an item gives you plus 15 per stack. Base damage, corrupts all old notebooks. As a reminder, the old notebook gave you crit chance and total damage, but if that's not what you're into, the Ancient Hieroglyphs are here to help. The Alternate Reality Visor is a modded item that I think is super cool. It gives you a chance when you do a critical hit to give you some barrier, so the Void version I came up with it is the Twisted Tincture. Your active barrier increases your critical damage by plus 1% per stack, per 1% barrier, corrupts all AR visors. To any loader mains watching, you're welcome. I got you. Only 2 Void commons? That's it? Okay, I guess. The first Void uncommon is Death's Touch. 5% plus 5% per stack, caps at 75%. Chance to instantly kill non-boss enemies on hit when hit with lightning. Corrupts all bronze Vajras. I just want this because I'm a ukulele enjoyer. Leave me alone. Another likeness of myself in an item's name is a Sock's Luck, which really is made up. 10% plus 10% per stack. Chance on healing more than 5% in one instance to explode for 250% plus 100% per stack. Damage. Corrupts all defibrillators. Yeah, I got it. Defibrillators are another modded item that allow you to critically heal. I thought it would be a neat alternative, again, to reward you for healing. I am nothing if not predictable. Next, the Twisted Cordyceps. While healing, all enemies within 20 plus 10 per stack meters of you are slowed by 20% and take 0.2% plus 0.2% per stack of their maximum health and damage. Corrupts all glowing spores. More encouragement to play engineer, I guess. It'd help with your wunguses and bunguses. Yippee! Maybe you could call this one like a tungus or something? And yes, I did have to search up what a cordyceps was. It's like this poisonous mushroom. Pretty scary. This one sort of fell into my hands, but whatever. The Jailer's Right Hand. Permanently reduce enemy damage by 10 plus 5 per stack, and root them for 3 plus 1 per stack seconds on the first hit. Corrupts all prison shackles. The prison shackles are a previously mentioned modded green item that slow on hit and, much like the Chronobobble's Void variant, roots enemies. The hand does this as well, while also offering some of that defensive utility by reducing their damage. It's not by a lot, but it'll make a difference. One of my favorite modded items is the LETH41, a funny little experiment that makes your damage over time effects do 7.5% more damage. Its Void variant I came up with here is very simple. The Antimatter Pipette. All damage over time effects last 8% plus 8% per stack longer. Corrupts all LETH41s. Like I said, simple, but sometimes that's a good thing. Remember our quantum entanglers? Yeah, but what if push instead of pull? Negative Energy Generator. On kill, release a pulse that pushes all enemies within 15 meters away, dealing 200% plus 200% per stack damage. Corrupts all quantum entanglers. Get away from me. The item. That wraps up our Void uncommons. Now let's move on to the Void legendaries, which are incredibly rare items, and often very complicated. Parasitic Tarantula. Automatically decrease all enemies' armor by 30, plus 15 per stack when they spawn. Corrupts all symbiotic scorpions. I like this item because it provides an alternative to the symbiotic scorpion for survivors with a relatively low attack speed, which I kind of think we needed. It would maybe help like Loader or something, just instantly kill more enemies. More boom, baby! Or I guess, moob? Because it's in reverse? I don't know. The antimatter capsule. A lot of antimatter today. Killing an enemy spawns a vacuum 20 meters wide, plus 20 per stack, in which enemies are rooted for 3, plus 1 per stack, seconds, and their damage is halved. Corrupts all fissile fuel rods. It's like the singularity band on kill, but a little bit different in usage. I think that's pretty neat. I hope. The Ancient Scepter is a Risk of Rain 1 item that it was also modded into Risk of Rain 2. I like its use, but it doesn't really work on everyone, so I proposed the Wretched Opal. All of your abilities' cooldowns are halved, and you have a 50% plus 10% per stack hyperbolic to activate twice. Corrupts all Ancient Scepters. God, I really hope we are on the home stretch now because I am on page 10 of this script and my limit is slowly approaching. Equipment time. These are by far the easiest ones to come up with because you can't stack them, but I still enjoyed making them. Captain's Hotline. Upon activation, randomly call down a hacking, shocking, healing, or utility beacon at a targeted location. 0.025% chance to call down a Diablo Strike, dealing 40,000% damage after a long charge-up time. If you are playing as Captain, defensive microbots become 2 times as efficient for 20 seconds. Cooldown of 90 seconds. Isn't this a cool idea? Please be proud of me. Please. I wish there were more items that did this, where they do different things per survivor, similar to how Void items affect the Void Fiend, so here you go. Feeling lonely? I have just the thing for you. With this equipment, call up the homies and you'll be all good. The Crowd. Summon a swarm of 10 to 20, count increases with luck, allied lesser wisps that deal 50% damage, last 30 seconds, cooldown of 60 seconds. What if the backup, but more and weaker? Yeah. Some of these items I had to search up because I'm smooth-brained and didn't know what they were. Needless to say, some of them were weapons, and I might be on a watch list now. Hehe. The Elongated Knuckle Dusters. For 15 seconds, all melee damage is doubled, and applies a small knockback to boss-type enemies. Cooldown of 45 seconds. Again, Loader mains? I got you. Another weapon. FBI, I swear it's just for a video. Balisong. Unleash a barrage of slashes 20 meters in front of you, dealing 80 times 50% damage and inflicting 5 stacks of bleed. Cooldown of 45 seconds. I wanted a more satisfying, stronger, but more close-range Somerang, and I think this provides exactly that. Could make for a funny build with gestures and fuel cells. Just get up close to him and go slicing. I don't know. There aren't really any super thrilling defensive equipments in my opinion, and I don't like the Jade Elephant. Sue me. But here's something cool. The Distress Beacon. After a 5-second warm-up time, call for help from the UES Safe Travels, and receive 30 seconds of invulnerability. Cooldown of 120 seconds. This one might be OP, but whatever. I realize this next one might be too close to the Gnarled Woods bite, but I think I made it different enough, and I don't know. Orbital Medkit. Upon activation, release healing pulses that heal for 50 every 0.75 seconds. While held, increase your armor by 20. Cooldown of 30 seconds. Again, a little close, but it might be good to have when you have like a bunch of drones and you have the better drone mod where they all sit next to you. It could be nice to heal them constantly. The Pocket White Hole. Create a 40 meter solid dome that prevents enemy movement and lasts 30 seconds, cooldown of 90 seconds. So, I'm sure you guessed, but a white hole is a theoretical opposite of a black hole that pushes everything out of it. Honestly, this one is just that big dome they put over Springfield in the Simpsons movie, and I love it for that fact alone. There are a lot of movement-based equipments out there, but none of them are particularly groundbreaking. However, everything I make is groundbreaking, and I am never wrong. The Warp Drive. Instantly teleport to a targeted location up to 80 meters away and gain plus 20% movement speed for 10 seconds, cooldown of 30 seconds. I think this one would be really funny to have a bunch of gestures and fuel cells with because it would be borderline uncontrollable. Just like you teleport everywhere you're looking, it would be hilarious. Before we move on to the Lunars and finally end the video, there was actually one boss item that was submitted. Boss items wouldn't really work because I would have to make up bosses to go with them. However, there are 2 bosses that don't drop anything after defeat, Mithrix and the Voidling. So I introduce to you the Hammer of Design. Upon killing an elite or boss, slam down a hammer in front of you with a range of 15 meters that knocks back enemies and deals 4000% plus 1000% per stack damage, dropped by Mithrix. Insert bonk sound effect here. The lunars were super fun to make. Giving downsides to items is just so silly and fun, and I love it, and I feel evil now. The Moon Pie. When using an interactable, heal for 30% plus 10% per stack of your maximum health and permanently lose 15 plus 15 per stack armor. Just like eating a moon pie in real life, you need to be desperate to use this instead of any other alternatives, and will probably regret it in the future. Maybe losing armor is too much, but it can't be that bad. Star of the Unforgotten. Gain plus 100% plus 100% per stack. Total damage. All instances of damage you take reduce your maximum health by 20%, plus 20% per stack. Caps when you are at 150 health. It's a really good buff with a really terrible nerf. What a classic lunar item. I love this one. I think it's way cool. The Corrupt Man's Credit Card. All purchases are 50% off. At the start of each level, you must pay off your debts equal to the money you had at the end of the previous level above 0. To explain how this works, the upside is straightforward, but to explain the downside, I'll provide an example. Say you leave an environment with 5,000 dollary dues. When you load into the next level and look up at your money in the top left, you will see negative 5,000, which you will have to pay off before you could buy anything again. I don't know why I love this one so much, it's just so creative, I don't know. This one is just Gubo Jr., but he isn't silly anymore. Strange Matter. Upon using an equipment, gain 200 plus 100 per stack armor for 40 seconds. After this time, spawn an enemy clone of yourself that deals 75% plus 75% per stack base damage. This would work similar to Spinal Tonic in that if your equipment activated fast enough, faster than its cooldown, it wouldn't give you the downside. I like this one personally though, the downside could, possibly be a little worse. You wouldn't be able to stack the 200 armor, and if you kept activating it before the timer ended, the amount of times you activated the equipment would cause that amount of clones to spawn. This might crash your game if, it ends, but I don't know. It just sounds funny to, have it end, and then, 80 clones spawn, and you gotta fight them all. As I'm writing the script, I could have sworn there were more than 3 lunars, but I guess that's it for those. We still have the lunar equipments, though. I don't think I've ever picked one of these up other than the meteorite one to mess with my friends, but nonetheless, they are still silly. When I say they, though, I'm lying. There's only one. The Entropy Key. Upon activation, open a chest for free. All chests permanently cost 15% more. Cooldown of 80 seconds. There are modded alternatives to this that aren't lunar, but they are one-time use things, and this could be a funny with Corrupt Man's Credit Card and a bunch of gestures. Get everything for free, there you go. And it's half off. When I started writing the script, I unfortunately noticed in my comments that I had missed someone's submission of 8 items, and it was not because I was lazy, but because I'm creative, that I asked my Discord server to give me their ideas for the items. There were multiple ideas for each item, so I'll read them all aloud. The first was a common, the holographic ad. Cypher says, holographic ad. Every 10 seconds, mark an enemy within 30 meters with a hologram. Killing that enemy gives 100% plus 50% per stack extra gold. Extreme says, holographic ad. After hitting an enemy, play an ad stunning them for 10 plus 5 per stack seconds with a 20-second cooldown minus 5% per stack. I personally like the second more, but an interesting change I propose is to make the ad that spawns an area of effect that lured enemies to it and would be chance-based instead of automatically on hit, because that might be a little too strong for common. Item 2 was the Mobius Strip, an uncommon. There was only one idea for this one, and it was from Extreme. Mobius Loop. All your projectiles loop back and forth one more time, plus 1 per stack. This is really cool. I'm imagining it would just circle around the first enemy like a boomerang and hit it over and over again. Also, maybe the damage would be lowered per hit after the first. This pair would be amazing with the shuriken. The legendary was the rocket-propelled chainsaw. Cypher's idea was rocket-propelled chainsaw. Missiles you shoot hit 2 plus 1 per stack more times. Very simple, but, Sweet and short. Hurrar says, rocket-propelled chainsaw. Every time your missile hits an enemy, there is a 20% plus 20 per stack, stacks hyperbolically, chance to inflict bleed or hemorrhage. I would say probably let's go with bleed, because hemorrhage is very strong. No Name Worm says, rocket-propelled chainsaw. A flying chainsaw circles you at a large distance. IDK, like 5 to 10 meters, dealing, I'd say, 400% damage to enemies on contact and applying bleed. Profilmers says, 5% divided by 2 per stack. Chance to shoot a piercing chainsaw for 5,000% plus 2,500 per stack. That flies and targets enemies with a homing equal to the ceremonial dagger for 30 seconds, plus 15 per stack. As the chainsaw passes through an enemy, it applies 1 stack of bleed per tick. When a chainsaw's duration ends, or it hits a solid surface, it explodes in a 2-meter radius, dealing 1000% damage. I like No Name Word's idea here the best, the chainsaw that orbits you and does damage. It would be a very cool item to pair with the focus crystal. The only change I would make is to have it like orbit faster or orbit farther away from you as you get more stacks, since there was no prerequisite in there. The Void common was the Swirling Slurry, which I personally imagine is like a slushie that you get from Pizza Hut, but I digress. Seeping Ocean says, Swirling Slurry. For every kill you get a 1.5% damage boost, minus 0.5% per stack. But if you get hit, lose all of your buffs, and you get slowed for 3 seconds. Corrupts all mochas. Hurrar says, Swirling Slurry. Taking damage below 25% health consumes this item, giving you a temporary barrier equal to 150% of your maximum health. Corrupts all power elixirs. Cypher says, Swirling Slurry increases health regeneration by 2 HP per second for 3 seconds, plus 3 per stack, upon killing an enemy. Corrupts all bison steaks. Hurrar, whose name was autocorrected 3 times to horror when I was writing the script, that is funny, but whatever, has my favorite of the 3 items here. That's super creative. Elixir, but it gives you barrier is really cool, and I have no real suggested changes except for like, how would you get barrier more than your health? I don't understand how that works, but maybe it's just simple and I'm just stupid. Void Uncommon time! If you are excited, subscribe. Come on, I had to get one of these in here. The item was the Unheard Canticles. Cypher's idea was the only submission. Unheard Canticles. Deal 150% damage to enemies within 20 meters, plus 10 meters per stack. When you receive $25, scales over time. Corrupts all Gore's tomes. I love this idea. Dealing damage as a reward for earning money is pretty darn creative, and the only other item is this modded item that you get from the Aurelianite, but it's not really the same. This is another item that like I have no changes for because it's just so cool. The Void Legendary Imitation had 3 submissions. Lexar's idea, Imitation. For every elite you killed, gain a stack of Minor Aspect in the elite's respective variation, all stacks lost upon leaving a stage. 1 stack of Minor Aspect will grant 5% of the respective aspect's effects. Example, overloading would convert 3% health into shield, and 50% of my math is wrong. Use correct math. I failed Algebra 1. With further stacks granting 3%, this stacks infinitely, corrupts all Wake of Vultures. Seeping Ocean's idea was Imitation. Every 60 seconds, you summon a random survivor that lasts 20 seconds and deals 100% of your total damage, plus 25% per stack. Corrupts all Happiest Masks. And finally, Retro Pacifist's idea. When an ally dies, it is replaced by a copy of whatever killed it. Summoned copies last 60 seconds and deal 200% damage, plus 150% per stack. Corrupts all Happiest Masks. I like the first one by Lexar here a lot. It's a neat alternative to the Wake of Vultures that would be kind of crazy to see late game. I'm not going to present any possible changes though here because it's already an overtuned description, and adding anything or subtracting anything would just make it more complicated. And the last proposed item is a Lunar, Timely Demise. Broken Area's idea, Timely Demise. Decrease your base damage by 10%, minus 10% per stack. Damaging enemies has a 10% chance, minus 10% per stack, hyperbolic, to inflict Marked for Death, A non-stacking debuff, which lasts 30 seconds. When a debuff expires, any afflicted non-boss enemy will instantly die, and any afflicted boss enemy will be dealt 5,000% base damage, plus 2,500 per stack. Seeping Ocean's idea, Timely Demise. You take 15 damage every 3 seconds, minus 0.5 seconds per stack. But for every missing health you have, gain a 3% damage boost, plus 1% per stack. Also, this item ignores Shield and Barrier for its damage over time effect. Lastly, Extreme's idea, Timely Demise. Stop time every 60 seconds, minus 5% per stack, for 20 seconds, plus 10 per stack. When time is back to normal, you are stunned for 10 seconds, plus 5 per stack. Jesus Christ. All of these are super unique, but I love them all, so I'm going to talk about them all. Broken Area's idea of a timed debuff is very cool, and despite the downside not being particularly bad, the fact that it takes 30 seconds for the debuff to expire and do its thing balances the upside pretty well. You'll probably kill the enemy that has it before the 30 seconds even goes off, it's just sort of like insurance. Seeping Ocean's idea of constant self-damage that gives you base damage is neat, and I like the idea of the added downside of not activating on Barrier or Shield, so no matter how much of those you have, you are still at risk of dying via self-damage. Personally though, I would make it do more damage to you over time, and have the damage boost be a little lower at its base and add, the same amount. The last one, by Extreme, is terrifying. I think it was written as a lunar equipment, but nonetheless, it's still very creative and scary. Imagine not being able to do anything for like 10 whole seconds. I'm shivering me timbers right now, dude. It's crazy. Actually, finally now, we are literally at the end part of this. I'm sorry, this is the longest video I've ever made, or at least the one that I've had to put the most work into. I will end this 16-page script off with some items for you to name yourselves. Half of them will have assigned rarities, and the other half you can give your own rarities to. First, we'll start with the items with assigned rarities. Common, Beehive. Uncommon, Taxidermied Skunk. Legendary, Prayers of the Enlightened. Void Common, Scattered Tigerite. Void Uncommon, Broken Sorcerer's Staff. Void Legendary, Sentient Assault Rifle. Lunar, Vial of Frozen Tears. Equipment, Extendable Fire Poker. And now for the unassigned rarity ones. Gertrude's Dentures. Book of Lies. Incendiary Baseball. Chain Link Fence. Hell's Bathroom Mirror. Poison Lollipop. Leg Extenders. RGB Light Strips. I feel like I am reading off of like a numbers station, but instead it's just nonsensical BS. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you so freaking many for 1,000 subscribers. I'm really happy about the community we've been able to make here. I've been at this for almost 6 years now, and I could not be happier now that it is paying off. This channel has genuinely helped my mental health immensely. I finally have a routine I can follow with my life. While it's a lot to balance with college, I'm happy that I can actually feel productive. I cannot wait to see what the future holds. Thank you to everyone who submitted their items for this video, and thank you all for being super supportive of my silly little antics on this silly little channel. Thank you so much for watching, and again, bye-bye.